This is KGW News at Sunrise.
Good morning and thanks for getting up with us. On this Saturday morning, I'm China Green. This morning on Sunrise, we've been asking the question for years. Will a new I-5 bridge get built? The big chunk of funding from the federal government that should finally get the project off the ground. Plus, Portland police changing a long-standing policy. Why they say they will now go after people who try to drive away. But before we get to all that, let's go to Daisy Caballero for a quick look at the forecast. Good morning, Daisy.
Hey, good morning, China, and good morning to all of our viewers. Happy Saturday to you, and I hope you are ready for the sunshine that we are going to be seeing for much of this weekend. Before we start to see a little bit more of that rain, we'll talk about all the details in the next few minutes in the show. It is currently 33 degrees here in the Rose City. Those winds are calm, and we're starting to actually see some high clouds start to push over much of our region, also parts of Southwest Washington. We are also expecting to see some heavy fog develop along the I-5 corridor. So just keep that in mind if you are planning to travel. Current temperatures right now, we are below that freezing degree mark as we're looking at Hillsborough, 29 degrees, 30 out in Beaverton, 31 in Forest Grove. Looking down south just a little bit more. Again, seeing those chilly temperatures, 31 in both Kaiser, Salem, and 29 in some areas, including Aurora as well. So here's what your weekend is going to be looking like. Again, sun and clouds for today, and then sunny start for tomorrow, and then we'll start to see a little bit more of that increasing cloud coverage, but our daytime highs are going to be sticking in the low 50s. But we'll talk about more on when we'll see a little bit more of that rain and also mountain snow into those higher elevations. China?
Daisy, thank you. A major funding boost brings Washington and Oregon one step closer to funding a new interstate bridge. The major project is getting a $600 million federal grant. Catherine Cook talked with lawmakers and drivers about what's next.
Rush hour on the interstate bridge. Let's be honest.
This is just getting worse.
And there are so many rush hours to choose from. AM, PM, even weekend fun hours too. Take it from Britt Hamilton.
You're not going to get through, but you know, we're used to it. I've been here 13 years, so.
Funny thing about 13 years ago, that's when the last effort to replace the bridge was in full swing. Remember the Columbia River crossing? Trish McCann does.
They've been talking about it for years, and I really thought it was going to happen about 15, 16 years ago, but
it didn't. The CRC, as they called it, failed after spending $175 million. The biggest reason? Washington didn't approve $450 million in funding, largely based on objections to including light rail. But this is a new day and a new project acronym, IBR. It stands for the Interstate Bridge Replacement. On Friday, the effort got a major boost. The Department of Transportation awarded Washington State a $600 million grant for the new bridge.
Oh my gosh, so excited for our region, for our state.
Washington Senator Maria Cantwell is thrilled. She notes this is the first sizable federal investment in the Interstate Bridge Replacement Project and something the CRC never came close to getting.
This is like a validation that the federal government is serious about being a partner with Oregon and Washington and getting this done.
As impressive as the grant looks on paper, it's just a drop in the bridge's budget bucket. The whole project is expected to cost somewhere between $5 and $7 billion. The project team plans to split the bill between Washington and Oregon. Each state has already put in about $200 million combined and pledged another $1 billion each. Also, tolling from drivers should bring in around $1.2 billion. That leaves about $2.5 billion that'll need to come from federal sources.
What we need to do now is get the planning and construction efforts underway. And my sense is that more federal dollars will flow under those applications that the city of Vancouver and others have applied for.
Cantwell says if all goes to plan, construction on the new interstate bridge should begin in 2026 and be done in about 5 to 7 years. In the meantime,
you've got to pick the right time to use the bridge.
It is what it is.
We love Portland, Vancouver, it's all good.
In North Portland, Catherine Cook, KGW News.
A fire broke out at the McMinimans Grand Lodge in Forest Grove last night. Several neighbors called 911 just before 6 o'clock to report the large flames that you're seeing right here. It turns out the fire was in a shop separate from the hotel and restaurant. Crews kept it contained to the area, even with one big concern.
There was a large, probably 1,000-gallon gas tank that was used for an emergency generator. That was probably 5 feet from the building.
Thankfully, the fuel tank didn't catch fire. No hotel was part of the property was impacted. The shop, which contained some furniture and equipment, that was destroyed, though. A Yamhill County Sheriff deputy faces some concerning charges. David Mills is accused of exposing himself in the sheriff's office and engaging in other lewd acts. Court documents also say he posted videos and photos of him exposing himself online while in uniform. The incidents allegedly happened from January 2022 to August of this year. He faces 12 criminal charges and will now undergo internal investigation. Portland police will be able to chase suspects more often because of a change in policy, and this affects vehicle pursuits. So the previous policy only allowed officers to chase people accused of felony crimes or in extraordinary circumstances. Under the new policy, they'll be able to pursue suspects accused of lower level felonies. They will still need to consider factors like the suspect's location, speed, and criminal charges to make sure the chase won't put community members in danger.
But we will, as I said, do careful evaluation of every event and weigh, the effectiveness. Are we able to, see a decrease in the number of, stolen cars or successful, burglary arrests or things, maybe, a decrease in speed racing because they know that there's some intentionality now behind our actions that we didn't have before, or that we have some authority that we didn't have before.
Chief Day says the chase policy will mainly apply to missions like when teams of officers go after stolen vehicles. The new policy takes effect in a month. A drop in construction, the Rose City is leading to some layoffs in the department that handles building permits and inspections because more than 70 workers within Portland's Bureau of Development Services are out of a job. Unlike other city departments, the Bureau relies on its own revenue for funding. 98% of funds come from permitting and land use review fees. With less construction, a spokesperson for the department says the Bureau is losing almost $3 million a month.
We did not anticipate, and I don't know anyone who did anticipate quite the drop-off in permit activity that we saw over the summer.
There is concern from economists that a cut in inspectors could lead to longer wait times for permits and inspections. Still, the Bureau of Development Services say that they didn't have much of a choice. They expect the cuts to sustain the department for several months. Remember the guy who escaped from the Oregon State Hospital, wound up stuck in the muddy pond and needed to be rescued? Well, because of that case, the state hospital is at risk of losing federal funding. Ashley Grahams looks at how much money the hospital could lose and what they have to do to keep it.
This is the man that escaped from the Oregon State Hospital in August. His name is Christopher Prey, and he's charged with attempted murder, robbery, and assault. 2 days after the escape, Prey was found. Firefighters pulled him from this muddy pond in North Portland. His time on the run prompted an investigation. The Centers for Medicare and Medicaid released this report detailing their findings. They say the hospital could lose funding in March if they don't increase security, particularly when it comes to transporting patients. The report says the hospital failed to, quote, develop and implement clearly written, effective policies, procedures, and staff training that ensured patient safety and security and safety of others. It also reveals more about Prey's escape.
I'm surprised anyone could escape from here.
They found that the 2 staff members transporting Prey, who had shackles on his legs, a belly chain, and handcuffs, stepped out of the car and left the keys in the ignition. That's when Prey unbuckled himself, jumped in the front seat, and took off, driving over 100 miles an hour. Hospital staff later said that when it comes to managing car keys, they, quote, don't have a procedure or protocol for that. The Oregon State Hospital has until December 21st to submit a plan detailing their efforts to correct security issues. In a statement, the OSH superintendent said, quote, we are taking immediate measures to ensure we meet the CMS requirements and continue to keep patients, staff, and the public safe and secure.
It wasn't always up to hospital staff to transport patients like Christopher Ray. In the past, law enforcement in Marion County would handle the transport, but that contract ended in 2022 after the sheriff's office said they were too short-staffed.